Bettering your business takes working with the best. With the James Hardie Alliance, you gain access to leads, training, networking, and support from the #1 brand of siding in North America. Achieve new levels of success by joining the James Hardie Alliance today.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, managing editor of the National Newsroom at Lee and co-host of the program with Bruce Miller, editor of the Sioux City Journal and a longtime entertainment reporter. And it's some exciting times now because we're starting to get into the summer blockbuster time, but there's also a lot of TV shows that are just dropping because I guess we're hitting that deadline, right, for Emmys and things like that.
I realized the other day what the deal is. This is now like November and December is for the movie industry because we're getting near the end of qualification for the Emmy Awards. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to get these series in so that you can see what's up and what's happening before the end of the qualifying year, because it is one of the things that could get them over the fence if they want to last another year. I've watched so much TV, my eyes are bugging out. I usually iron while I'm watching these screeners. I have ironed everything that's possible to iron. So,
you're just wrinkling things up. You're like, I'm just going to throw it back in a ball. And
let's do a sheet. That ought to be good. You know, so I'm watching a lot of it, and I've seen things that you probably even haven't seen ads for. The Four Seasons is a television version of the movie The Four Seasons. The movie isn't really available anywhere, so it's a way for another generation to finally see what this is all about. And it's with Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, a bunch of people that you recognize from either SNL or from TV comedies.
Okay.
Fascinating. Alan Alda created the first one. Carol Burnett was in it. Rita Moreno was in it. Jack Warden. So you can, if you wanted to go back and try to remember, it is fun how they've tweaked it a little bit. And that'll be coming up. And that's one that you'll hear a lot about because I think it is going to figure into the Emmys. Your Andor. I've gotten a chance to see Andor. And I think they've spent a ton of money on it. I mean, the sets are incredible. A lot of actors that I would be poking you and saying, now, who is this one? I'm not sure who he is. But I do think that they have done a better job of continuing the Star Wars legacy because it does have that kind of quality, if you will. And you do feel the sense of the evil empire kind of moving in on these people. So it's one to watch. I think you're going to enjoy it. I've watched almost all of The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
And that's a lot of episodes. I've watched a thing called Dying for Sex with Michelle Williams. And it's a comedy, but she's diagnosed with cancer and she doesn't have long to live. And she doesn't want to leave life without saying that she's done the thing she's wanted to do. It is based on a podcast, and so it's not word for word exactly what happened, and it is dirty in places. So the title is interesting. And then I've seen Your Friends and Neighbors. That's the John Hamm thing. That he's kind of this deadbeat neighbor who steals from the neighbors, uses them. It's a lot of who knows what you want to say, what he's doing. I don't know that rises to the level of the morning show, but it certainly
he's doing
his way of getting in there, you know?
Yeah. Well, John Hamm is just everywhere right now too.
He knows how to work it. You know, he gets on Saturday Night Live and then suddenly what do I promote? Well, I've got like 5 or 6 things. So let's see what happens. But
I want one year where the 5 nominees for Best Actor for a TV show are John Hamm, John Hamm, John Hamm, John Hamm, and John Hamm. It'll be 5 totally different shows, but it's almost like he's working toward that he could somehow squeeze into that many projects. One? Yes.
Yeah. No, and it could happen. It really could happen. You know, and I thought if you watched this last week, Saturday Night Live, I thought that could be a good entry for him as Best Guest Performer. I think he was good enough in that so that he could maybe win that one. You never know. The Last of Us. Have you watched any of that yet?
No. So we just finished the Pitt, episode 15 of the season 1. So we just wrapped that, and we just wrapped White Lotus. So the next thing we move into will either be Handmaid's Tale or Last of Us.
Yeah, it jumps ahead. It's 5 years ahead. And you do see new characters. There are new people who are trying to kind of manipulate what's going on in that. Interesting. I don't think we see Pedro Pascal as much as you want in the first episode. So when you start watching that, be ready. The MobLand is one that I think I could easily let go. To be honest with you, it's Pierce Brosnan, Helen Mirren, and then a lot of British stars that you've seen in Downton Abbey and all those kinds of shows where you go, okay, now who is this? And it tries too hard to be The Sopranos, I think.
Yeah, so I saw a number of trailers for it, and I was thinking, this looks kind of good. Pierce Brosnan's in it, Helen Mirren's in it. Maybe I'll sub up to Paramount Plus to watch this, but it did have that feel of like, is this just British Sopranos or what?
Yeah, you're correct.
Okay.
Have you seen The Residence? The Residence is about the White House. There's a murder. Tries to be like murders in the building. Okay. And it's about a death at the White House, and they're not sure if somebody murdered the guy, if he committed suicide, what it is. And then a detective comes in and tries to size up everything. Well, it's the night of a state dinner. So there's a whole bunch of people that are potential. But I found that when they started asking them questions about it, it's like, I don't really care, if that makes sense. And I didn't think it was clever enough to keep your interest for how many episodes. So that's one that I probably will let go. The studio is about, just what it says, a studio and how that runs. And that is a fascinating comedy that I think will factor into some of this stuff. I do think, though, that when we look at dramas, The Pitt, White Lotus, and Severance are the three that you're going to see practically dominate the whole thing. In fact, I don't even know that they need to look beyond that for nominees. White Lotus alone could fill Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress categories.
So I haven't obviously seen Last of Us yet, but Severance I thought was just a brilliant season 2. And The White Lotus, I can't get enough of that show. I mean, it really feels like you could do, what they could do? You know how like The Pitt and is kind of like a show with its 24. You could almost do an episode per day of The White Lotus. Since they're there for a week, why not focus in on each episode is a single day? And I guess in some ways it sort of works out that way, but that might be a fascinating way to look at that show too. But it's just so good, so compelling, and it really leaves you wondering what's going on here.
All right, if you were to pick, now most of them are going to be entering in the supporting category. Right. Who would you pick was the best supporting actress and best supporting actor?
For White Lotus?
White Lotus.
Walton Goggins as Rick Hatchett is probably the one that really stood out to me. And then probably, well, I don't know, who would I go for the supporting it? Like Parker Posey was really good. And she's kind of been memed a lot too with because of her accent and stuff. So
she's like Jennifer Coolidge, where they kind of struck a nerve with the public. They aren't necessarily acting, but when you start repeating what they're saying, there's potential right there. They've been talking that Carrie Coon would be the one of the supporting actresses, but I don't know that she had enough scenes to really make it stand out.
Yeah, I really like Carrie Coon, and she's been in so many good movies and is such a great actor, but I felt like even in that little clique of friends, I couldn't figure out who stood out more in her group, So I don't know if I could put her at the top. Like, I feel like Parker Posey was just really good in that. And then the other was Rick's girlfriend.
Right.
The other who I think maybe
quirky enough that you'd go, okay, she stood out.
Exactly.
I do
Yeah.
think that Patrick Schwarzenegger could get a shot at it.
Really good too. I know.
It's not what you think he's going to be doing as a character,
Right.
but I think it's Walton Goggins to lose. I
Okay.
think he's right at the top right now. But okay, now let's go to the pit.
Let me actually just back this up really quickly. Do you know what I find most fascinating about the White Lotus? So, and the stars, it's the one person who's been in basically all three seasons. John Grice
Yeah.
as like Greg Gary. You think about what was his most notable role prior to the White Lotus.
Wonder
He
what it
was
was.
he was in Napoleon Dynamite. He was
Oh
Uncle
my God.
Rico. It's like he got older and he went bald, and you forgot that he's the guy that was like, do you think I could throw this football over that mountain? And it's the same guy, but you add 15, 20 years to somebody, and it's just like, whoa, who are? But then again, that's Jennifer Coolidge too,
Sure.
who is so well known from the
Stifler's
American Pie.
mother.
Yes, Stifler's mother. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
I wonder that he should be in the next one too,
Yeah.
because he's kind of the through line for all of this. But how do
Right.
they work him in, and how do they?
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay,
But
the pit.
the
I
Pit.
want you to go to the pit.
All right. So I feel like with the Pit, I mean, Noah Wiley, he's gonna be a best
He'll be
actor
best actor. Yeah.
nominee.
So he won't be in
Yeah.
the supporting bunch.
Right. So I'm trying to think now, who would I? So I think Langdon might have. So that was Patrick Ball as Dr. Frank Langdon. I could see him being a best supporting character.
So could the one from Nebraska, who's
Yeah,
a fresh doctor,
right.
right?
So that's a fresh face. So that's an opportunity. Isa Briones is Dr. Trinity Santos. She was really good, kind of had that compelling. The nurse, the one that got assaulted and punched in the
Catherine
eye.
Lanaza. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like she's probably because she's that one character that she's not a featured nonstop, but she's somebody who I think you can kind of get attached to.
Right.
So I liked her a lot. And then the other one this would be more of I don't know if it'd be like a supporting, is it a guest appearance? Sean Hattasey, he played Dr. Jack Abbott. He was, I think at the very beginning, because he
Okay.
transitions, he was the guy that hands off the night shift to the day shift. He was like standing at the edge of the roof, like, am I going to jump?
Sure.
That kind of thing. And then he got called back in when there was the big, shooting and all that. To me, he was a very compelling character when he came back in, but I don't know if he has enough screen time. But he was still in like 3 or 4 episodes. I mean, it was a long 15.
And I think there's a cutoff for the guest performer honor. It'd be like, is Sam Rockwell qualified for the White Lotus? Because he was
Right.
only in a couple of episodes, but
Yeah.
would they consider him supporting because he was in too much?
But yeah, that's another one. You're gonna probably have multiple actors get nominated for the Pit, but it's almost picking like, well, who's it gonna be? Who had enough screen time to give it to this person because you're a best actor, this person because you're more in a supporting role. It's a tough call.
It goes back to those days of Hill Street Blues or L.A. Law, where they had these large casts. And you'd always go, why aren't they winning? Why aren't they winning? Well, because they didn't have enough screen time. It wasn't.
Yeah. So this is, it's funny. It's similar in some ways to sporting teams that have too many good athletes on their team. So there's this, as a New York Mets fan, 1988 is a year that sticks to me. I was 12 years old or something like that. The Mets were one of the best teams in baseball. They went all the way to the National League Championship Series. They ended up losing to the Dodgers. And, everyone talks about Kirk Gibson. He was the NL MVP that year, but the voting happens before the playoffs. So you can't factor in any of that. So the big thing about that year is Kirk Gibson actually won the National League Most Valuable Player Award. But if you look at his statistics, you're like, well, really, was he? But the problem was with the Mets, and the Mets had 2 players, Darryl Strawberry and Kevin McReynolds. One had a really strong first half of the season. One had a really strong second half of the season. They both had very good seasons across the board. But if you're voting, you're like, do I go for Daryl or do I vote? So you end up splitting the vote and then somebody else shoots to the top.
People will complain. Well, when you see these Emmy nominations coming out at the end of May, they'll say, why are there so many from one show? Are they not watching all these other shows? And they are. It's just that some are a little more prominent.
Right. Well, and if you've got a really good show and it has an ensemble cast, it's tough to ignore a show that has 12 contenders to it.
Severance.
I mean,
Look at your Severance people.
Right. Yeah.
And then you go to the comedies, Hacks. Hacks has a big chunk of them right there.
Right.
The Bear, Abbott Elementary. You could do it all with like 2 or 3 shows, and that would be all of your nominations, even though we're getting a jillion of these shows that are coming out now.
Yeah, there's a lot of programs out there. I mean, there's no shortage of content. Although I think the reality is even though we like to think that there's just tons and tons of great shows, there are a lot of really good shows, but are there that many elite shows? And I think outside of a handful that are coming from HBO or Max, whichever you want to call them, and then a few of these others, there's plenty of really good shows, but there's a huge pack, I think, of stuff that's like, it's good. There's nothing, you want it to be renewed for a second season or a third season or a fourth season, but it's more like the popcorn stuff. It's those movies that get fannies in the seats, but they're not necessarily going to win an award for anything.
A lot of these films that get Oscar nominations could qualify for Emmys if they left that door open, because they don't have that long of a window at the theaters. Yeah. So something like Amelia Perez, which was just the big hot thing for Netflix to push, could have swept house with an Emmy run.
Sure.
You know, is that really the right thing to? I don't know. know.
Yeah.
It limits them. I had a chance, though. Can I share with you an interview?
Yeah.
MobLand. I talked to all of the women from that. Interesting.
MobLand or the Bond?
MobLand. I talked to the women, but I also talked to the women in The Bondsman.
Oh, okay.
And you don't think of this kind of as a female show, if you will. Jennifer Nettles is in there, but there are 2 actresses who are kind of around the fringes, Beth Grant and Jolene Purdy. And they were both together in the movie Donnie Darko with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, yeah,
and now they're reunited. What's fascinating is that I have known Beth for years. She used to be a publicist with NBC, and she would haul talent around and you know, would you like to talk to so-and-so? And she knew the game, but she wanted to try acting. And so she would do like little things where she'd agree to be the mother. And most actresses, she says, don't want to be the mother. They think they're too young to be the mother. And as a result, she leaned into it. And she has gotten, if you look at her IMDb list, she has gotten so much work. It's incredible. Well, now she plays Kevin Bacon's mother in The Bondsman. And Jolene Purdy plays an agent of the devil. So they've made a deal with the devil, and here they are. These 2 get to be together in a number of scenes, and they say it's just fascinating to watch what happens when you're watching an actor like Kevin Bacon at the top of his game, they think, in a show that maybe you might have dismissed and said, I don't know if I want to watch that. So if you will, here's a few minutes with Beth Grant and Jolene Purdy from Bondsman. Beth, how many moms have you played?
Well, let me name all the cute boys' mothers I've been. A lot. Each one different. I've been very fortunate. I just, I know I've heard certain actresses, I guess if you grow up and you're like an ingenue and you whatever, you don't want to play moms. But I've loved it. I really have. And I've gotten to work with like, Mark Wahlberg and just a lot of really sexy dudes that are my son. I got to tell you, of all my sons, my very favorite, even above my friend James Franco, I will say Kevin Bacon wins it all. The the work in this show is just extraordinary to me. He really transforms. He's a kid from Philadelphia, but he's a country boy at heart. He is our everyman. He takes us on this journey. Mm-hmm. And as I watched it, I thought, what actor can have this range? Do you agree?
I agree with you. No, I agree.
It's extraordinary what he does. So about halfway through as we were shooting, I started to feel a little shy around him because I was seeing the level of work he was doing and the transformation. And it's an unusual role for him. So it's very exciting. I'm excited for him.
So humble and supportive of the entire cast and so generous and just incredible.
Everything.
Yeah.
But Jolene, how often do you get a role like this? I mean, if they say, oh, well, you're going to be playing, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spill it, but you know what I mean? It's like, how do you prepare for that?
Oh, I'll say it. I'm going to be Kevin Bacon's boss. I feel like, she is strong. She's stronger than I am. And so it's actually made me stronger as a person. And reading who she was and figuring out who she was, the twist that I took on it is a lot of times I will choose kindness, right? And that sometimes that is a manipulation tactic, something that may come from the devil. And so I feel like there's just a little bit of humor that comes from the charm of hell.
Have you ever done that kind of a role before?
I have not. I feel like a lot of the characters, from Donnie Darko, even in White Lotus and Orange is the New Black, even she's in prison, but she's still not that strong of a character. This is definitely the strongest character that I have been given just the honor of being able to create and give nuances and depth to.
What's in that big book?
All the secrets.
Any good ones you can share?
Well, when you sign up to work for the devil, he does offer good vision and dental.
Is there a pension plan?
Yeah, there is. I mean, no one offers those any day like today, right? There is. There's a little bit of a pension just to draw you in.
And you two get to have fun together. So that's always a bonus, too.
And she's got too, let me tell you.
I mean, but you try me. Kitty tries me.
I try her, and then I get this. The finger. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I saw it.
I go like, okay.
And Beth gets to shoot. You get the guns out, and there we go.
Tell them. I tell you, it is fun. I liked killing that pastor with that sawed-off shotgun. Of course, it wasn't the pastor anymore. I was convinced by then that he needed to go, and he was a demon. I tried with the cross. I thought I could, do an exorcism. Didn't work, so there you go. I did as many takes as they wanted.
When you do come knocking at my door, be kind.
Okay, we will.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're going already. Oh, bye.
Thanks, Bruce, for that interview. Seems like an interesting show. I'm glad you stipulated what it's about, too, because I was about to say, the Bondsman, was this a James Bond thing? But no, it's...
We're making a deal with the devil, right?
Yes. Now it makes more sense. But it's an interesting cast. I mean, Kevin Bacon... And we all these shows that we've talked about, even leading up to this, the industry has moved so much further to turning home theater into theater. They're putting in the money, they're getting in the big stars. There's always a place for going to the theater, to a movie theater for these big things. And you look like my daughter went with a bunch of friends to go see the Minecraft movie, and she came home and the place, it was like packed, and it was just nothing but teenagers going to go see this movie. And so you're always gonna have room for those types of things, the summer blockbusters. But you look at years and years ago, the shows of the 70s and the 80s and even into the 90s, you were either a television actor, and they spent so much money, and you had kind of these low budget sets and things like that, to now where you're doing, Andor, that easily could have been turned into movies because it was really based on a movie. This is film budget time here.
I think they missed it. They should have made the movies because it has that look, and it also has the vision of a director-writer who really wants to see it through. But what's fascinating is we look at these series now, and you say, wait a minute, that guy in the back, he's kind of interesting. What's going to happen to him? And what they wind up doing, just recently in theaters, Warfare came out, and it stars a number of these young actors who are in TV series. DeFaro Wunatai from Reservation Dogs is in this. Kit Connor is in this from Heartbreakers. The kid Cosmo Jarvis from Shogun is in it. I mean, you just go through the line, and they were all people we first saw on television shows that you thought, they have a little something there, a little spark. And I think that's one of the joys of watching these series is seeing that little spark. And can I share a little personal story? I have a friend who she lives in Canada, and her son is 7 years old, and they decided, let's see if he can get some extra work in a movie. And he got in, he's been in, is it Homefront Heartland? Something like that they have up in Canada. And then he was in Fargo, the last Fargo series. He was in an independent film, and it did well. And then he was in The Last of Us. This season that we're seeing now, you'll see him at the end of this season. He's in one of the first episodes of Black Mirror, and he has speaking roles and all that. He is now making a film with one of the big independent producers that I think is going to go big time. He's one of 5 characters in the film. And here's a kid who is doing this. He's got other kinds of things on the books that he is, going to be filming. And it just started with a little something. So if you're thinking about sending your kids to be actors, don't send them to Hollywood. Don't send them to New York. Don't send them to one of those places. Send them to Canada, because they're making a lot of shows up there. And I think they could get an extra job by just being in Canada.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good programming and a lot of great actors that have come out of Canada. I mean, especially in the comedy world, as we know, whether it's John Candies or Rick Moranis or whoever.
Catherine O'Hara, she's in The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And, there she's making a transition for herself. But so it's always look in the fringes, look around the sides. You'll see performers that'll spark somehow. And then they end up being the next big star. And Warfare is good. That's one of those films that you're going to look at and you're going to say, I think they're going to remember this thing when it comes November, when the Oscars are looking for people to nominate.
Yeah, it's a big year for Alex Garland too, who worked on that film. He's director of it. He wrote it. I mean, he obviously he's coming off last year. He had the movie Civil War, and the partner he had on that movie with the technical aspect of war worked with him on Warfare. They're not connected in any way other than they're both war related. But he's got another big one coming out this year too, at 28 Years Later, which is the latest in that post-apocalyptic horror series with 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later, and now it's 28 Years Later. So a lot going on for Alex Garland. I mean, he's really done a lot the last however many years. He had that series on, what was it, Hulu with Devs, which was kind of fascinating, and Ex Machina, and just a lot of really good things from him over the years. So he's got a big year ahead.
Well, you've got a lot of watching to do, because there's a lot of properties out there that need to be seen, and I think will become the next big thing.
All right, well, I have to get running because I have a lot to watch over the next couple of weeks. But thank you again for listening. We'll be back again next week with another episode of Streamed and Screened.
If you need your ironing done, call me.